Hello everyone, welcome back to part 2 of creating an urban legend with Blender geometry nodes. In part 1, we had created a very rough structure of the character that we want in the scene. In this part, we're going to be continuing where we left off and we're going to be crafting the rest of the scene. So let's get back to Blender. I've just made two small changes here. Let me turn off the wireframe. I've changed this guy's name to Dude, and I've added a plane here. Now, this plane we will use for instancing. I'm gonna get a trees on spline here, and I'm just gonna try something quick here with a render. And yeah, all is fine. Then I'm gonna add a grid here and connect this here. Give it a size of 50 into 50. Now we're gonna go into the camera view, and we need to kind of make sure that our plane fits into the size we've got. So let's make it 200 by 200. That should ensure everything is as per need. Go for a noise group. Before that, we'll need some vertices here. So 200 vertices should be good enough for this. In here, we just want the thing on the z-axis, right? So if we look at this through this, gonna keep a scale of 1 and then multiply it something like this. Reduce the scale to 0.01. Keep multiplying till something kind of comes in. That's good enough, I guess, for now. And then I'm gonna just, yeah, that's it. Go mesh distribute points on faces and connect this back here. This will give us a bunch of points. We just need to kind of avoid points near the dude here, first of all. So I'm going to take the dude, go proximity, faces is fine, distance greater than, and connect this as a selection here. And then when we increase, we'll see that the points around the faces are kind of gone. Right. And then we'll just change this to 1 because that's all the kind of faces we need. And then we can go instance on points and connect this guy over here. It'll take a second, but they will pop up. Basically, we have a big field, so we'll kill that field also a little bit after this. I think we might have kind of bricked up the system here. I don't know if we have saved it. So yeah, let's go into this autosave. And how many points are we looking at? We're looking at 40,000 points. So that's a lot, of course. We're going to change this to 0.5 and just go into the camera view. And we can kill the Y size, I think, to 50. Yeah, shouldn't be a problem. And this should further reduce us to 5,000 points. Again, we can just see where the camera is at. Camera is over here. So just to kind of see what is going on, I'm gonna select this and place a transform here, and we can move it along the x-axis. I think, yeah, this is good enough. And then we can come out of this again, and then take a instance on points and connect this here. Even this is too much, but it's kind of okay, I guess. Let's see. First, I'm going to go into the camera view. Obviously, we can't see anything there. So let's drop it down to 0.05 or 0.01. Then set a seed value where that guy is kind of visible to us. Yeah, okay. I'm just going to go into the colored view now and go to scene world. I like the overall blurriness of this. We can pull up this and move this here. First things first, let's get some light into the scene. So for that, I'm gonna switch to a simple sky texture, I think, and change this to scene world. Right, and then we can go for a signed UV. Now this is a node group that I've created. Basically what this does is calculate the UV of a mesh, basically. It's a similar kind of node group as the CTMs that we've been using, except the CTM node group is more for when you convert from curve to mesh. This is when you directly want to go for meshes. So in this one, I'm gonna type in a new attribute called ground. Let's change this to small letters. Just give it some value, say pi by 2 for now, and we can connect it here. I'm gonna drop this down and I'm gonna open the shader editor, create a new material. And since we are slowing down, I'm gonna change this to 0.01 for now. So we get some speed on the viewport. Also, we can kill the sun disk for now. Now we have some speed. So again, to check the UV, I'm gonna just press Control T here with Node Wrangler on. Change this from UV to attribute. Copy the ground over here. And we can give this the same name and same name here in the materials. And then we'll just connect we'll create a new thing called hex. Just give it 2048, I guess, is good enough. And change this to color grid. So yeah, the UV is pretty much set, except we'll probably change this to 2 or 5 so that more things can be accumulated here. We can even change this to 10 for that matter. Probably 5 is good enough. Give this off to something else. Now I'm gonna delete this. I'm gonna connect I'm gonna press Command Shift T and I'm gonna go into my materials round. Yeah, this one. I'm gonna just select all, deselect this, and yeah, normal DX, and then connect it to. Now by default, this is attached to a UV. We'll disconnect this and we'll connect this guy over here. Our dude is flying up in the air, unfortunately. So we've got to kind of find a different. In order to find another thing, first I'm gonna mute this, and then it'll be probably easier. There we go. I think that is good enough because it gives us trees till the very end and very less dependence on whether or not there is a sky. We can change this to 1920, or we can just lift it up slightly. Yes. Okay, now we can turn on the materials again. There goes, then connect the trees. And I'm going to change this to 0.05. I'm going to go to trees on spline and try to reduce this. So let's single that out here and here both. Let's see, first of all, this thing. Yeah, this is fine for now. Now, the only thing we need to worry about is how to kind of get the spiral look here, right? I don't know, like if we were to go to the edit mode. So if we were to select the top, yeah, tilt, we'll try some values here. Okay, so curve tilt is giving us something. Okay, yeah, so this is basically in our current tree only we can achieve this without having to go, and it doesn't, I don't think it affects the L2 branches at all. So then we can just connect this thing here and we have the thingy, and we can then turn this on to get the effect of the rotations. Like, I don't know, maybe we could try to animate this to some degree. Now, before we go any further, I think we should try one more thing. And I'm gonna mute the signed UV, and I'm gonna remove the trees for speed here. So what we want to try actually is particles, right? So in this same background thing, we can try to get like like if the trees are swinging and stuff, then probably there is a scope for some kind of particle fall, right? Like leaves are falling and stuff like that. So let's try it around this guy. We don't have to probably try it in the entire node group, but let's see. So in order to do that, I'm gonna go for some points here, not instance on points, just points. And I'm gonna connect this here. Now, by default, this comes up under the dude here. There we have it. So let's say some 200 points or whatever, right? Now, in the position, we can attach a random value here. So this just sends them everywhere. And we can give them a starting height, maybe something like this, like they'll fall from what height, I think 3 meters, and then we can spread them around the scene. So the scene is on X, right? So let's just spread them here and then spread them here. And similarly, spread them around over here and spread them around here. Now, we need to give it some motion, right? So how do we do that? We could try to give it a transform geometry. And in the translation, we could add a rotation here, combine X, Y, Z, and also take out a combine X, Y, Z over here, right? So the first thing is that for the Z, we can connect a value. And in this value, the points start from wherever they are. We can actually give this 3 meters as well. So all the points are above. Then they start from wherever they are. And by the end of it, they are on the ground, right? So -3. So now, like, all of them are falling at the same time, right? If we want to change that, I'm going to change this with a set position and then connect this to the offset. 0 to 1, maybe. Okay, so we need to stretch these out a little, right? See, in the first plane also, we need some kind of, yeah, like this. Right. This is fine speed. We probably need to give it some kind of a direction. Maybe like the same thing on Y, can give it a little bit of direction. And on the X, we can do a multiply. Right. So that's, let's say, like a simple motion given there. We can increase this height and decrease this. Now, let's say we want to go instance on points and we want to attach, let's say, we'll create a mesh here, make it 1 by 1 and apply that's transform scale. We'll call it leaf, turn it off, but I'll add it to a group and then we can mute that group. Then we'll take the ground objects here and before we do that, let's go into the leaf and give it the leaf material. That's fine. We can come out now. Now we're gonna connect this here as an instance, but the size is too much. So random value, make it 0.1 to 0.2. And then in the rotations, we can also go random value. Actually, in the rotations, we can assign scene time frame. So we get a bunch of random rotations just about their axis. And we can then do a math here. Multiply this by 0.1. Sorry, multiply, I mean. I'm going to actually not do this here. I'm going to add a rotate instances node. And I'm going to do this over there. After this, I'm going to add a random value here and a subtract node and connect this. So this kind of makes them all independent. Yeah, okay, this is good now. Next is arrangement of all this, I guess. Let's just, for grass, I think we can design some blades first. I'm gonna go to a viewer, get a circle, really small IOP, and then connect a quadratic bezier. Starts from 0.5 on the Z, 001, 0.125, and 0.5. Then we can just give it a endpoint push 0.2, then align Euler to vector, connect the position over here. Yeah, that's probably it. 0.01 is fine, but we don't want 32. We just want like 8 of them or 16. So if this is like one blade of grass, we want to then take our land, go distribute, then IOP, and then connect it back here. It's probably a lot of points. Once again, we can connect this guy over here so that there's nothing around the dude, and connect this and turn this on again. Random values, change this to vector and connect this one to the X, and then scale also another random value 0.2 to 0.8. We can connect that here. And then I think for this one, we might have some material already saved. Yeah, rope actually might work here, but size is too low, so 0.5 to 1, that should be good. Can also give it a bit of noise, I think. Like we can give it right here actually. So noise, connect here, and yes to selection. Endpoint selection, start size 0. How many points are there? In size 15. And then we just want to give it on the X and Y a bit. So maybe 0.3 on each, or so this part is done, but we just need to animate them now. In order to do that, I'm going to change this to 0.1 now so that I can see what's going on in the animation. And basically animation can be this. We'll do a math node here, make it multiply, connect it to scene time frame, and then just play back 0.01. Okay, so next we have, let's come out of this now. As you can see, the scene is almost done, just need a head. And next I think that's what we will do. Okay, so now in order for us to spawn a head, first we'll have to create one. Right, and before we do that, I'm just gonna set up a positioning for that. Let's just say an endpoint selection. Just want one guy on the end size, I think. Yeah, and radius can be 0.1. So I think we're gonna need more space than this. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take this guy up here. Now we have ample space and we can get rid of this. Okay, so this obviously is not the way to do it. What I'm gonna do is delete this and add a equal and index. And I think since we have 7 points from bottom to top, we can just type in 6 over here and it should appear on position. We'll figure it out, but first we have to now design the thing. Then I'm gonna add a plane here, make it one by one first of all. Go to geometry nodes and delete this. And after the geometry nodes, we can apply a mirror. We attach a, let's just say a simple line here on the X. Sorry, let's go for a curve to mesh operation on this. And what do we actually want the curve to come off from, right? We could use a arc or we could use a semicircle. So let's go for arc. Let's make it 180 degrees. Okay, so now this is complete. We go resample and then SCR, spline parameter factor, and then a float curve. Of course, it starts small or kind of like this, and then stays like this till here, then sharply rises up. Then we'll bring it here and we'll bring this down over here. Probably change this to 0.5. Yeah, much better. And now to give him a turban on top, right? Like the actual turban might be a bit complex, but to create in geometry nodes, but essentially it's just like two spirals crisscrossing each other, right? So if we were to take two spirals and just crush them, something like this, and like make this 3 rotations and further kill the height down. And then we go add a transform geometry and we rotate it on the x-axis a bit. Then we take the same thing, duplicate it, connect both of them, change this to minus 10 degrees and reverse this. That's something like a turban, right? Like I'm going really loose on this one, honestly, in terms of designing, but really what I want to experiment about, how I can get away with cheating. Right, let's say this is our thing. Then we go for a CTM, connect this to a circle, 6 points, 0.01 or slightly bigger, maybe. But yeah, 0.05 is fine. But we add a transform to this because we want to flatten it. We don't want like rings. And then if we enter a repeat zone, actually, shouldn't we go repeat zone before we enter that? Like here and similarly over here as well. Connect the integers of both in the same way. Add a transform geometry to both. Let's say we want to go 2 rotations. We'll probably have to do this to both of them. If we rotate X, right. All right, let's say this is the turban. Then if we connect this guy over here, we'll find that we are grossly oversized. So in order to fit the skull, we'll have to add a transform node. Crazy to think about, honestly, that I'm honestly consider that this as an option right now. Of course, this is not perfect, right? So how can we make it so? We can reduce this to zero point 0.3. That would mean this guy can come down as well. if we were to take this guy and go here, add a mesh to curve and connect it here. So we go delete geometry greater than float x of separate position, right? If we were to add a CTM to this, now this time z greater than. Now for this one, if we go IOP, gonna take quadratic Bezier, and here we'll add a circle. I think if we make this a compare instead of that, but now we've got to increase the scale. And if we press realize, will it go that side? Then again, I should arrange things a bit so that I don't get confused here. Now, for the quadratic Bezier, if we could, yeah, we could just lift it a bit here. Scale can be random value from like 0.821 or 0.621. Rotation is, I think, fine. We do need the set curve radius here. Not set position, sorry. Factor, spline parameter. Then we can add a float curve here, right? And then before that, we can add a noise group in here. In the noise group, we'll make a selection of endpoints, start size 0, and then we'll just give it a little bit of wiggle. Probably if we subdivide the final, like the separated geometry, or we can resample this, right? Yeah, that's more like it actually. And then our animation could just be, yeah, that seems okay for now. Uh, this is not a right way to make hairs since we have hair in geometry nodes, but I'm just being lazy right now. And we go here, instead of the icosphere, connect that as an instance. Yeah, something like this. Okay, so now that we have covered this much, I'm gonna go through the materials. But before going into the materials, I'm gonna clarify a few things. There have been more fine tuning that have been done to this project in terms of the overall look and feel, in terms of the modeling of the meshes, geometry nodes, and such. All of those changes and all of those little details you can find in the project file that will be there on Gumroad, and the link will be in the description. So you can feel free to go up there and get that file. Now let's get into the materials and just take a look at everything. I'm going to share all the screenshots of all the materials that I've used. Right. So this is the material for the cloth that we used. This is on the character. It's basically a mix of two Voronoi textures crisscrossing each other, and that kind of makes the overall material. So the next is the skin material, and that's just a basic material over here, nothing too crazy about it. And then we have the bark material. This is the material that has been given to the cane, the one that the character is holding. It's basically a Voronoi texture and a noise texture that produces a wooden kind of an effect. Finally, this is done. And as you can see, I've set up like 4 or 5 cameras over here. There's also 4 or 5 scenes over here for each of the camera. Next, we go to the ground. On the ground, we have this is for the grass. There are 2 materials. One is a brown grass and one is a green grass. And then finally, for the ground, we are using a texture, sort of like a PBR texture that is pre-made. Next is the volume, and the volume is just a simple fog with a density of 0.001. Then we come to the trees. The trees also have a PBR texture, and I'm applying some additional mattes and some additional colors into it. Leaf color is again another PBR texture, and I'm just doing some adjustments to it to arrive at something like this. The hair on character, I've basically made this simple color ramp with full roughness, and each of the strand has its own color. So a random per island profile. This only works in cycles, by the way. This will not work in EV. And then for the turban, again, I'm using the same cloth material, but with a different color. I've used a maroon in the multiply over here instead of the blue that I was using over there. For the lighting, I'm just using the sky texture, but overall, I am using two reflectors over here to kind of bounce the sky lighting from for the places where I felt that it was darkening up a little bit. So you're not seeing them because I have changed the ray visibility here. They're not visible to the camera. They don't cast any shadows. They just cast diffuse, glossy, and stuff like that. Now we have a render. This is a still image, and I did change a couple of things here. First thing I changed was that I added a volumetric to this. I'm going to show you actually in the layout. So I added a volumetric to the entire scene for some fog. No changes to colors and such. I also changed the angle of the sunlight. So overall, we have come to this part now. Let's actually go for a different arrangement here. So in the compositing, before we go for anything, let's just see what our passes are. And this method, you can look at to a YouTuber named Robin Squares. He's quite a pro at compositing. I've just copied his method. So for the compositor, like apart from the explanation that I've already shared with you guys, I'm just going to share with you the compositor node setup. Let me clean this up a bit. I'm just going to widen this up. So this is the compositor node tree setup that we are using. Some of the edits that I've made, like the glare and the fog on top of bloom over here, these are kind of my own additions. But basically, if you follow that method, you will be able to come up with something like this. So that's pretty much it. After this, I'm going to be packing and rendering, and I will show you the final export. So that's it for this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. If you have any feedback to share with me, then please feel free to comment on the video or write to me on my email. Stay tuned and make sure to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out any of the updates that are coming through. If you want, you can follow me on my social media. The link would be given in my profile or somewhere below in the video. It has been great fun to create these videos for you guys, and I will see you all shortly with the next video coming out soon.